All right, guys, welcome back. Well, let's just talk about a minor issue in creating that final composition. So we wanted to incorporate two things, the graphics and type precomposition or group. We wanted to incorporate this animation here, and then we wanted to incorporate yoga pants, which is our final animation. Okay, so what you're going to run against is length.
Well, any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not a normal person and nobody was home.
All right, so in this particular video, I have gone ahead and increased the length of the composition, and the way I needed to do that was I increased the length of the composition that contains it, but I also need to increase the length of my pre-composition here, graphics and type. So I'm going to undo a few steps here. All right, so right here, here's how it looks before I increase the length of that composition.
Well, any normal person would leave it.
All right, so that we do not want. Now watch what happens if I just increase the length of the main composition itself. So I'm going to go to Composition Settings with nothing selected. And right now I have a start time code and a duration of 10 seconds. So I'm going to increase that to a duration of 15 seconds. Okay, well that sounds great and looks great. There we go. And here's my nobody was home. I want this to start a little bit later on in time. So I'm going to double click on yoga pants, and I'm going to move my playhead to a little bit further along here. Just auto-saved for me. So I am going to start on the word well, and we may just need to, not a normal person and nobody was home. Okay, so I'm going to put my end right there. So I'm taking a shorter portion of that composition because I don't want it to overlap my other one. I could make it longer, but again, I only have 2 videos, and I might need to do this infinitely for, say, if there were 10 entries in here. But now I'm going to go back to my composition, and I'm going to move this along in time, and let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to just put them together here, although what I really want to do is I'm going to add at the end a fade in and a fade out.
Any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not.
Oh, what's happening here? Okay, and look what happens when I try to just grab this and drag it to the end. Nothing. Okay, so here's the deal. What I need to do is this precomposition or group also has to have its length increased. So I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to go to Composition Settings. So remember, this precomposition is a group, but that group has the property of length. So I'm going to add an additional 5 seconds, making it 15.19 seconds long. And I'm going to go back to my FilmFest interface and look, see this kind of ghost line here? And when I hover over it with my mouse, not my mouth, when I hover over it, I get this little funky edit tool. That's called the slip edit tool. And that allows me to increase the length of the composition. All right, now let's take a look at it again.
Any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not a normal person and nobody was home.
Oh, well that doesn't work either. So let's double click again on the graphics and type, precomposition, and we discover here that we actually need to take all of those layers, and make the individual layers longer to fit our increased length. Okay, so our lesson here is the precomposition or group. We need to increase its length individually, and we also need to increase the length of each layer in the timeline before we go back and we try to increase the length of the total composition. So what we've done here is something called nesting. So this composition is nested within FilmFest interface. This composition itself has a defined length. This composition also has a defined length. So we can increase the defined length of this one, but we also have to increase the defined length of this one, and individually we have to increase the length of all the layers in time. All right, so let's go back to FilmFest interface, and you'll see now that we don't have that little ghost bar, and now we can go ahead and we can give Yoga Pants, which by the way has a different aspect ratio. That's okay. I am going to move it so it's right in the middle. And then I can go ahead and add properties to it, like the transform properties of opacity, starting out at 0%, going up to new keyframe, and we said 85%, so I'm just going to put that in there. And here we go to the end. It's at 85%. I'm going to give it a keyframe. End of it, 85%. Let's take that down to 0%. All right, now we've lengthened the composition. We've lengthened the background layers themselves that are nested within the total composition. So we've covered precomposing and nesting. Here we go.
Any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not a normal person and nobody was home.
Okay, I could do a slightly better job there. I could apply the mask and I could apply the effect to it that gives us the feather. I am going to do that right now. All right, so we have our precomposed layers down here. We have our animation down here, and we have our animation up here. And I'm going to double click on our top animation, Yoga Pants, and now it has the property mask. So mask opacity, mask feather. I am going to make about 150 pixels. It's okay that these are different because what we want is for them to be optically the same. Okay, so I'm going to click away from that. All right, so let's see what our total composition looks like.
Any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not a normal person and nobody was home.
Okay, a little bit of an abrupt ending there. All right, so I'm going to go back to Yoga Pants, and I see its in and its out points. And I'm just going to drag that out point. Okay, now we're going to go back to our composition. All right, let's see if we can get that audio.
Any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not a normal person and nobody was home.
Okay, so I'd like to fade that audio out. All right, so right here, I am going to increase the magnification here, and let's see where the applause begins. Right there. All right. So I'm going to go to the transform properties. I'm going to double click on Yoga Pants itself. I'm going to go to audio. At the same spot in time right here, nobody was home. Audio levels, 0 decibels. Now I'm going to move it to the end. Keyframe audio decibels, minus 192. All right. So back we go to the same composition, Film Fest interface. And let's take our playhead to the beginning, see how it looks.
Any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not a normal person and nobody was home.
Okay, still a little tiny bit abrupt on the audio transition in and out. So once again, I'm going to go into here. I'm going to make the in point and the out point a little bit later on in time. And notice it's a little bit different here. So back to Yoga Pants, the movie. And I can drag those audio keyframes if I want to. But I'm going to go back to the total composition here, and under audio, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. There's the keyframe, see? So I am going to I'm going to click to go back to the latest keyframe, which is right here. Here's our first keyframe.
Was home.
All right, I'm going to drag that keyframe just a little bit out, and now let's see. All right, that's a little bit better. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning.
Well, any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not a normal person and nobody was home.
All right, little tiny bit abrupt still. All right, so I'm going to double click on Yoga Pants the movie. There's those audio keyframes in the beginning. Let's go back to the main composition. Let's look at this. Let's look at audio levels. Let's drag that last audio level keyframe out just a little bit more.
Not a normal person and nobody was home.
Okay, much better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And our next, you can see that it loops. Let's play the whole thing, see where we're at.
Well, any normal person would leave it alone, but I'm not a normal person and nobody was home.
All right, okay, good enough for now. If I had more time, I would tweak both the in and the out points of that audio. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to let you do that. So thanks for watching, and on to the next project.